Hi everyone, Tug here, and today I wanted to take a few minutes to go over what it takes and how to run a one-shot in D&D. So, when you're putting together a one-shot is a one-shot adventure, something that takes place during one session. And this can be 2 to 5 hours where you sit down at the table and you play an adventure from start to hopefully finish. Now, there's a couple little things that you need to do across that. I'm not going to go through every finite little detail on how to run an adventure. There are plenty of modules and things that you can get for free. You can go to r/D&D behind the screen on Reddit if you're interested in finding different one-shots and more granular tips on how to do this. I'm just going to run through the high-level stuff so that you kind of get an idea of what you need to do when you're first approaching it. So, because a one-shot is an encapsulated adventure that you need to have some form of conclusion, you need to be a little looser with progression. One of the things that I do when I'm mapping out a one-shot is if there is a MacGuffin, if there is an item that the players need, or a piece that they need for progression, or something to solve the mystery or puzzle, or a person that they need to encounter in order to make progression, I will move that item or person around as they explore. While one-shots are often on rails, which is an adventure that takes place, imagine a train. It's on rails, it can only go one way. You're basically confining them to just playing along on the story. While most adventures and one-shots are on rails, I try to give the players a little more leeway, 2 or 3 different tracks, but that doesn't mean that the things at the end of each of those tracks is necessarily different. It just gives each one a flavor, and it gives the player a little agency or a feeling of agency when they're going through. So if you take something like, for instance, they need to get into a building and it requires a key, that key can drop from several different points, be found at several different points. So kind of have that in mind. Don't have it be the only way to get this key is to dig up the key in this backyard after following this series of clues. That never happens. Nothing that you do in D&D almost ever goes to plan. A plan is only as good until first contact with the players, and then all bets are off. So if you take that and instead of like, okay, I'm going to have it buried in the yard. If they follow those clues that I'm dropping in front of them, those breadcrumbs, they go back to that yard and they dig up the key, boom, they can get into the ancient wizard's tower where the final fight is going to take place. Or you can have that key be on a hobo that they meet on the street who particularly likes them, or they do a really good job in a social encounter and he says, hey, here, take this key. You can move that around, give them multiple opportunities to discover that item so that you continue to progress the story, because a one-shot is both about player experience and player agency, but also about concluding the story. So that's something that you always have to keep in mind. If you don't conclude the story, then at the end of the one-shot, the players are going to be left wanting. And the idea is to give them that stand-alone, one-time adventure. Now, you can have a one-shot that leaves some questions up in the air, something that's a little open-ended, or perhaps something that leads into something else, an employer that may have more work for them in the future. One-shots are a fantastic way to introduce new people to the hobby. You do something thematic, do a Halloween haunt, do a holiday episode where Santa has gone crazy or has been kidnapped by rampaging elves. Things like that are a great way to hook people into the hobby and give you a standalone, silly, sometimes over-the-top one-time adventure. I love running one-shots because the gloves come off and you can do stuff that you can't do in a contiguous world. You have to constrain yourself to the rules of the world that you've created and the people that are in it when you're running a campaign. But when you're running a one-shot, you can go a little crazy. But always keep in the back of your mind that it needs to be bookended. There needs to be a start and there needs to be an end. It doesn't necessarily have to be that drop off the cliff, this is the end, all things are resolved, everybody go home, we're great. But you need to have some sort of satisfactory conclusion for the players. So that's the biggest thing about running one-shots. There are tons of modules out there that will guide you and show you how to run a one-shot, that will give you the layouts of adventures and different things that you can do. There are great ones out there. I cannot recommend enough just poking around and seeing what free ones are out there, because there are brilliant people who are putting out incredible content. The hobby is blowing up, and that is bringing such brilliant people into the hobby. So please check those out. That will give you the framework for how to do it, but then always keep in the back of your mind, I can move stuff around. You know more than the players. The players only know what you tell them. So they don't know that the key was supposed to be found in that backyard. They don't know that the hobo never really had the key, but we're kind of running out of time, so he really likes you, here's the key. That kind of thing. The players don't understand what's going on in the background, so you can move those pieces around, and in a one-shot, it's extremely important to do so that you get to that conclusion. You're essentially DMing a race against time. So that's my biggest tip about running a one-shot. Trying to keep that bookended, keep the end in mind, and stay loose with progression points. I hope that you liked this video. If you liked it, like and subscribe, please. It helps out a ton. Otherwise, I hope that you have great luck running your one-shots, and I will see you all on the next one.